Welcome, discerning listeners, to another profound journey on Echoes of History. Today, we're not just looking back at the past, we're bringing it forward into the very fabric of our present moment. I am your host, Sarah Chen, and I have the distinct privilege and, frankly, the awe-inspiring honour of introducing a truly monumental figure to our digital age. He stands as a colossus in American history, a man whose wisdom, resilience, and profound sense of purpose guided a nation through its darkest hour. Please extend your warmest, if ethereal, welcome to the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. It is indeed an unusual sensation to find oneself conversing across such a vast expanse of time within what you term a studio, speaking into this peculiar metallic fruit you call a microphone. I confess the very air hums with an energy I do not recall from my own era. A podcast, you say? The very concept itself is a testament to the ingenuity of your age. I am, however, most eager to lend my ears, and such thoughts as I may still possess, to this endeavor.
Mr. President, the honour is entirely ours. We are so incredibly eager to hear your unvarnished observations on the America you see today, a nation utterly transformed, yet still, in many fundamental ways, struggling with the very questions you grappled with. Let's begin, if you will, with the most immediate, the most striking sensory differences. As you observe our modern world, what first truly arrests your attention? What makes you simply stop and marvel?
Marvel indeed, Miss Sarah. One cannot help but marvel. My initial perception is of a world suffused with light, even in the deepest watches of the night. Your cities, these towering edifices of steel and glass, they do not merely glow, they blaze with an intensity that would have utterly confounded a man of my time. Our gas lamps offered a modest illumination, a comforting flicker against the encroaching darkness. But your streets, your very homes, are bathed in a perpetual twilight of artificial brilliance. It is as if you have captured the very sun itself and brought it indoors. And the sheer speed. When I traveled from Springfield to Washington, it was a journey of many days, a true undertaking. The railroad, then a marvel, moved at a pace that now, I gather, would be considered glacial. You speak of jet aircraft, of crossing vast continents in but a few hours, and communicating across oceans in an instant through some invisible ether. It's as if the very concept of distance has been diminished, compressed, made almost negligible. And these horseless carriages that throng your thoroughfares, a cacophony of motion and sound, yet a testament to an astounding mastery over materials and mechanics.
It's true, Mr. President. We often take it for granted, but the sheer velocity of modern life, the constant connectivity, the pervasive light, it shapes everything about how we live, work, and interact. We call it progress, though sometimes it feels more like a relentless current. And this current, of course, carries the people. What about the citizens of this accelerated age? Do you find them fundamentally changed, or are the enduring human spirits, the same aspirations and struggles, still present beneath the surface of all this technological glitter?
Ah, the people, the heart and soul of any republic. In many fundamental aspects, Miss Sarah, they remain remarkably familiar. I observe the same earnest desire for prosperity, the same anxieties about the future, the same profound love for their families, and the same fundamental yearning for dignity and recognition. These are constants of the human condition, immutable across the centuries. However, there is an undeniable, and to me quite stark, shift in how they engage with one another and with the world beyond their immediate sight. In my time, communication was a deliberate act. Letters were penned, often over days. Debates unfolded in town squares or crowded halls. News, when it arrived, was often through a single newspaper, read aloud in a general store, or delivered by a weary writer. Communities, by necessity, were more tightly knit, more reliant on direct face-to-face interaction. Neighbors knew each other's joys and sorrows. Now, it seems, information, and indeed opinion, assails you from all sides through these ubiquitous screens you carry in your pockets. It's a torrent, not a trickle. And folks seem to gather, not in physical proximity, but in smaller, often unseen digital conclaves, defined by shared ideas, shared beliefs, rather than by shared geography or a common meeting house. This creates a sense of both boundless connection and, paradoxically, a profound isolation in equal measure.
You've articulated the paradox of our digital age with such precision, Mr. President. What you're observing is indeed the impact of what we call social media, the internet, and the 24/7 news cycle. It allows for unprecedented global connection, for diverse voices to be heard, for movements to coalesce. But as you suggest, it also leads to these digital conclaves, or as we often term them, echo chambers, where individuals primarily encounter information and opinions that reinforce their existing beliefs. This can exacerbate divisions. How does this fragmentation, this rapid-fire exchange of often highly partisan information, compare to the profound divisions you faced in your own era, particularly leading up to and during the Civil War?
The divisions in my time, Miss Sarah, were of a different, more visceral nature, and tragically, they were drawn in the blood of brothers. The question of human bondage, of whether one man could hold another as property, was not merely a political dispute. It was a moral abyss that had widened for generations, threatening to swallow the very soul of the Republic. It was a clear, undeniable cancer upon our nation's promise. Your divisions, while perhaps less existential in the sense of open, large-scale armed conflict, seem born of a different, more insidious struggle for truth itself. In my day, despite bitter disagreements, there was a general understanding of certain shared facts, certain accepted sources of information, even if their interpretations varied wildly. Now, it seems, everyone carries their own printing press, their own blog or feed, their own seemingly unassailable pulpit from which to declare their version of reality, often devoid of common corroboration. The very bedrock of shared understanding seems, at times, to be fracturing. We debated the very foundations of liberty and the meaning of equality. Now it seems you debate the very nature of verifiable fact, the reliability of institutions, and even the intentions behind every uttered word. That, I confess, gives me a profound sense of disquietude. It is difficult to mend a tear in the fabric when each side believes the other is weaving from an entirely different thread.
That really cuts to the core of some of our deepest anxieties today, Mr. President. The erosion of shared reality, the weaponization of information. It's a challenge that, frankly, sometimes feels insurmountable. But let's turn our gaze to the other side of the ledger. Amidst all these challenges, what undeniable progress do you observe? What advancements, what shifts in society genuinely fill you with a sense of hope or even wonder? Where do you see the American experiment fulfilling more of its promise?
Ah, yes, progress. One must always look for the light, even in the murkiest of hours. The most profound and joyous change I observe is the expansion of liberty's reach, and with it, the recognition of inherent dignity for so many who were once denied it. I see women, Miss Sarah, not merely in the home, but fully participating in civic life, in commerce, in the professions. They hold positions of power, of influence, of profound responsibility. Indeed, you yourself are a testament to this, leading this very conversation. This is a glorious sight, a true testament to the unfolding of human potential. In my time, their voices were largely confined. Now, they resonate through every facet of society. Furthermore, the advancements in medicine, the very notion of conquering diseases that ravaged families, that cut down men and women in their prime, cholera, consumption, diphtheria, these were specters that haunted every household. Now you speak of vaccines, of surgeries that restore sight or mend broken hearts. It is miraculous, and the material comfort, the sheer abundance available to what you call the average citizen, even accounting for disparities, is extraordinary. The very idea of an everyman having access to such a vast store of knowledge through your internet, the ability to learn and explore any subject with the touch of a finger, it is truly revolutionary. It speaks to a broadening of opportunity that would have been unimaginable to many of my contemporaries.
It truly is remarkable, isn't it? The opportunities for women, the strides in medicine, the democratization of information, these are triumphs we often overlook in our daily grind. But let's return to the grand design, the very foundation upon which this nation was built. You famously articulated the ideal of government of the people, by the people, for the people. From your unique vantage point, looking at the intricate, often chaotic machinery of our modern democracy, do you believe this ideal is still enduring? Is the American experiment still on course? Or do you perceive deviations that might imperil its long-term survival?
That, Miss Sarah, is the eternal question, is it not? The weight of it has pressed upon every generation since the founders. The grand experiment, as you rightly term it, is never truly finished. It is not a static edifice, built once and for all time. Rather, it is a living organism, requiring constant vigilance, constant tending, constant reconsideration of its principles in the face of new realities. I see a nation still grappling with its ideals, still wrestling with the meaning of equality and justice in an ever-changing landscape. The struggle for a more perfect union, for the full realization of the promises made in our founding documents, continues with an intensity that is both encouraging and, at times, alarming. The faces in your society are more diverse, a tapestry richer, more complex, and more beautiful than I could have ever conceived. And with that magnificent diversity comes both immense strength, a broader range of perspectives, talents, and experiences, but also at times new and intricate challenges to understanding, to empathy, and to unity. The core principles, however, the yearning for self-governance, for individual liberty tempered by collective responsibility, for opportunity for all, for a voice in one's own destiny, those, I believe, still endure. They are the bedrock. The question is whether the current generation possesses the fortitude and the wisdom to continually redefine and reaffirm those principles in a way that includes every citizen, rather than allowing forces of division to fray the bonds that tie us together. The spirit of self-determination, though sometimes expressed in discordant ways, still burns brightly.
The diligent work of every generation, that resonates deeply, Mr. President. It reminds us that liberty is not a gift, but an ongoing responsibility. As we approach the end of our remarkable conversation, if you could offer one singular piece of advice, one profound message to the America of today, facing its own unique trials and triumphs, what would that counsel be? What wisdom forged in the fires of your own unparalleled experience would you impart to us now?
My counsel, Miss Sarah, born of bitter experience and unwavering faith in this republic, would be this: to remember our common bonds, to appeal ceaselessly and with unwavering conviction to the better angels of our nature. The temptation to demonize, to ascribe malice to those with whom we disagree, to allow partisan fury to obscure shared humanity. That temptation is always present, a siren's call in moments of fear and uncertainty. But a nation, like a house, or indeed like a family, divided against itself cannot long stand. The threads that bind you together, though sometimes stretched taut, though sometimes seemingly invisible beneath the din of disagreement, are ultimately stronger than the forces that seek to tear you apart. Seek common ground, even if it be but a sliver. Listen with an open heart, striving to understand rather than merely to refute. Remember the sacrifices made to build this nation and the even greater sacrifices made to preserve it. And never ever despair of the possibility of a more perfect union. It is not a destination easily reached and then forgotten. It is a journey, an ongoing endeavor, a constant striving. And it requires the diligent, patient, and hopeful work of every single generation, of every single citizen, to pick up the tools of understanding and compromise and to build that union anew each day. Let charity for all and malice toward none guide your steps.
Powerful, timeless and utterly essential words, Mr. President, to appeal to the better angels of our nature, a message that resonates now perhaps more than ever. Thank you truly from the bottom of my heart for this extraordinary conversation, for sharing your insights, your wisdom and your profound sense of American purpose with us. It has been an honour that transcends mere words.
The honor, Miss Sarah, was most assuredly mine. And the education has been most enlightening. May this grand experiment long endure.
You have been listening to Echoes of History with our truly unforgettable guest, the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Join us after this short commercial break. Welcome back to Echoes of History and to what has become one of the most profound and humbling conversations of my career. I'm Sarah Chen and we are incredibly fortunate to continue our dialogue with a man whose legacy looms larger than life, a statesman whose wisdom seems to transcend the centuries. We are once again joined by the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Welcome back, Mr. President.
Thank you, Miss Sarah. It is becoming less novel, this exchange, and I confess the opportunity to observe and reflect upon the unfolding tapestry of your age is quite engrossing. I have been pondering our last discussion, particularly the notion of echo chambers. It is a concept that truly gives one pause.
I'm glad to hear that, Mr. President, and it's a perfect segue into where I hoped we could go today. Last time we touched on the fragmentation of information. I'd like to delve deeper into the impact this has on civic life and the very concept of truth. In your time, political discourse, however fierce, often took place in town halls, in newspapers, with a certain shared understanding of facts, even if opinions diverge sharply. Today, we often grapple with what some call alternative facts and a pervasive distrust of institutions, including the press and even government agencies. What is your observation on this erosion of shared truth and its implications for democracy?
Miss Sarah, the very foundation of a self-governing people rests upon their ability to discern truth, to weigh evidence, and to come to reasoned conclusions. Without a common understanding of what is real, what is verifiable, what is merely opinion cloaked as fact, the very edifice of informed consent begins to crumble. In my day, the newspaper, however partisan, generally reported on events that occurred. The debate was often about why they occurred or what should be done about them. But the event itself was rarely in dispute. Now you speak of alternative facts, which sounds to my ears like a contradiction in terms, a deliberate obfuscation. When the public no longer trusts its sources of information, be they newspapers or the very words of its elected leaders or the learned men of science, then how is a unified path forward to be forged? How are great decisions to be made? It is like a ship's crew, each man with a different map, each believing his own compass to be the only true one. The vessel inevitably will drift, or worse, founder upon the rocks. The danger, as I see it, is that without common ground in truth, compromise becomes impossible, and the spirit of mutual respect, which is essential for a republic to function, evaporates. It breeds cynicism, and cynicism is a poison to liberty.
Your analogy of the ship's crew is particularly potent, Mr. President, and the cynicism you speak of is indeed a pervasive challenge. Let's shift slightly to another profound change, the role and reach of the federal government itself. In your time, the federal government's presence in the daily lives of most Americans was far more limited than it is today. While you dramatically expanded presidential power to save the Union, you operated within a much smaller overall framework. Today, the federal government plays a vast role in healthcare, education, environmental protection, social welfare, and so much more. What are your thoughts on this expansion? Does it represent a necessary evolution to meet modern complexities, or do you see potential dangers to individual liberty or states' rights?
A weighty question, Miss Sarah, and one that echoes debates from my own era, though on a vastly different scale. Indeed, in my day, the federal government's primary concerns were defense, diplomacy, the postal service, and the regulation of commerce between states. Most matters of daily life were the purview of the states or local communities. The expansion you describe is truly staggering. On the one hand, I observe monumental challenges that perhaps only a unified national effort can address. The very air you breathe, the waters you drink, the vast economic interconnectedness of your society. These are not confined by state lines and require a broader vision. The provision of certain safeguards of a basic level of care for the most vulnerable can speak to the moral conscience of a nation. However, a concomitant concern arises. When the government grows so large, so complex, so distant from the immediate experience of the citizen, does it risk becoming less responsive, less accountable? Does it foster a sense of dependency, or conversely, a feeling of being dictated to, rather than self-governed? My aim was always to ensure the government served the people, not the other way round. The balance between necessary national action for the common good and the preservation of individual liberty, the vital role of local communities, and the unique character of individual states. This is an eternal tension. It requires constant reevaluation. A large government, well-managed and transparent, can be a blessing. An unwieldy, opaque one, however well-intentioned, can stifle the very spirit it seeks to protect. It is a question of scale and wisdom, of ensuring that power, wherever it resides, remains accountable to the consent of the governed.
Accountability and scale, absolutely crucial points. And speaking of scale, let's look beyond our borders. In your time, America was largely focused inward, grappling with its own immense internal struggles. While you navigated international diplomacy, the United States was not the dominant global power it is today. Now, we are deeply intertwined with the world, economically, politically, militarily. We have global alliances, global responsibilities, and face global threats like climate change and pandemics. How do you view this dramatically altered role of the United States on the world stage? Is it a natural destiny, a burden, or an opportunity?
The global stage, you say. In my time, our focus was indeed, as you accurately note, largely internal. The very survival of the Union was paramount. Our foreign policy, while not absent, was necessarily secondary. To see America now as a truly global actor with influence spanning continents is a profound shift. It is, I believe, a testament to the principles of liberty and enterprise that we strove to uphold, which have, in their unfolding, created such a powerful and prosperous nation. Is it a burden? All great power carries great responsibility, and responsibility is always a burden. Is it a destiny? Perhaps in the sense that the very ideals of human freedom, once ignited, seek to spread and find resonance wherever humanity struggles. Is it an opportunity? Most assuredly, an opportunity to advance the cause of human rights, to foster peace through cooperation, to alleviate suffering. However, there is also a peril. The temptation for a powerful nation to impose its will, to act without heed for the sovereignty and diverse traditions of other peoples, is ever present. A nation that becomes too involved in the quarrels of others can lose sight of its own internal health. The wisdom lies in wielding such immense power with humility, with foresight, and with a consistent dedication to the principles of liberty and self-determination for all nations, not just our own. To be a beacon, not a master. To lead by example, not by force alone. It requires a nuanced understanding of cultures and histories far removed from our own, and a patience that can be difficult to maintain when urgent action is called for.
To be a beacon, not a master. That's a truly powerful articulation of an ideal we often strive for and sometimes fall short of. Mr. President, on a more personal note, away from the grand sweep of history and policy, what aspect of daily life today, beyond the technology, simply brings a smile to your face, or perhaps a moment of quiet contemplation about the human spirit? Is there any simple pleasure, any commonplace interaction that you find particularly charming or poignant in our modern world?
A charming question, Miss Sarah. Away from the clamor of policy and the grand machinery of state, I find myself often observing the children. They are much the same in their innocence, their boundless curiosity, their capacity for joy. But I have observed them playing in your public parks, in your playgrounds, with a diversity of complexions and backgrounds that warms the heart. Boys and girls, children of every hue, playing together, learning together, with a casual acceptance that, while perhaps not universal, is far more prevalent than in my time. The sheer freedom with which they interact, unburdened by the prejudices that divided my generation so profoundly. It speaks to a future, still distant and uncertain perhaps, but a future where the promise of equality might truly begin to bloom in the hearts of the young. And the libraries too. These grand public temples of knowledge, now filled not just with printed books, but with these computers, offering a universe of information to anyone who seeks it, regardless of station. That is a truly democratic ideal brought to life, and it gladdens this old rail splitter's heart.
That's a beautiful observation, Mr. President, and a powerful reminder of where true progress lies. The children indeed hold the keys to that more perfect union. As we conclude this second extraordinary segment, what final thought would you impress upon our listeners today as they navigate this complex, accelerated, yet hopeful modern world?
My final thought for this moment would be this. Remember the enduring strength of unity. Even amidst the cacophony of 1,000 voices, the fragmentation of information, and the vastness of global challenges, the power of people, bound by common purpose and a shared commitment to liberty and justice, remains the most potent force on earth. Do not let differences, however stark, erode your faith in the possibility of reconciliation. Do not let complexity breed paralysis. The work of building and preserving this republic is never done. It demands courage, perseverance, and above all, a generous spirit towards one another. Let not the speed of your age obscure the importance of thoughtful deliberation. Let not the ease of communication replace the necessity of genuine understanding. And always, always keep before you the vision of a nation where liberty and opportunity truly extend to all. It is a high calling, but one worthy of every effort.
Mr. President, your words are a compass for our times. Thank you once again for your invaluable presence and wisdom. It has been an honor beyond measure.
The honor, Miss Sarah, remains deeply felt. Farewell for now.
You have been listening to Echoes of History, continuing our profound conversation with the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. Join us next time for another journey through time.